Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today in the CZ studios. It is the 2A Tuesday edition. Welcome in. My guest coming up will be Lee, the GunWriter Williams, but I'm going to do something somewhat unusual today to start the program. I'm going to read a letter from Tate Adamiak, who we have spoken about on this program countless times over the last year and a half, and we'll explain why with Lee. There has been some updates to Tate Adamiak's case. We'll go through those with you today. I kind of teased that yesterday, but I think it's important that you hear the letter he wrote. And then we're going to play a clip of Cicada answering questions at a hearing from our friend Eli Crane, representative from Arizona, who's been on this program before, good friend of ours. First, Greg, we're live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and we're live over at X. You can tell people where to go and all that fun stuff. And then I'm going to read this letter to get started.
Yeah, briefly, if you want to find us on YouTube, just search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. Over on X, we're at AAR Mark. You can always head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com, hit that menu icon, and select your watch live or listen live option. And to join the live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
All right, guys, let's get started. Tate Adamiak is doing time in a federal penitentiary for breaking no laws. And we'll explain all of that. If you're new to the program, stay with us. You don't want to miss this. May 8th, 2026, he penned a letter to Robert Cicada, the new director of the ATF, and here's what he had to say. If I could speak directly to ATF Director Robert Cicada, I would begin by acknowledging that what happened in my case occurred prior to his leadership of the ATF under then-Director Stephen Dettelbach. I recognize that distinction. I also recognize the tone he and Attorney General Todd Blanche have recently set, and it is one that gives me reason to write this. If I could ask for one thing, it would be this. Clear lines, consistently enforced. No American should have to guess where legality ends and a felony begins, especially when the consequence can mean decades of imprisonment and the permanent loss of constitutional rights. The ATF holds extraordinary authority over how complex technical firearms laws are interpreted. That authority demands not only expertise, but restraint and consistency. What I experienced reflected neither. On April 11, 2022, 4 days after my arrest, President Joe Biden stood beside Director Dettelbach and acknowledged pushing for new rules because legislation could not be passed through Congress. Weeks earlier, the Department of Justice had already initiated an enforcement surge targeting privately made firearms, allocating additional prosecutorial resources and intensifying focus. That context matters because my case aligned with that moment. I was charged based on items the ATF classified as quote-unquote firearm receivers, items that had freely circulated in open commerce for decades. I was arrested before the rule redefining those items was publicly announced. That is not clarity. It is enforcement applied ahead of definition. So I continue to ask, how does something that did not meet the legal definition of a receiver at the time become the foundation for a federal prosecution? How does a collection of parts become a narrative carrying decades of exposure? I have spent years asking those questions from a cell. When I listen to Director Cicada and Attorney General Blanche speak about restoring clarity, aligning regulations with statutory authority, and eliminating ambiguity that leads to inconsistent enforcement, I heard something I had not heard in a long time. Recognition that these problems exist. If those principles are to mean anything, then cases like mine should be examined carefully. Because what occurred here was not simply strict enforcement, it was enforcement operating without a stable, publicly understood boundary. When legality depends on reconstruction, reinterpretation, or evolving internal standards, the law ceases to function as a guide and begins to function as a trap. I hope that from one gun enthusiast to another, that distinction is clear. I hope my case is recognized as an example of regulatory creep driven by vague, shifting, and subjective interpretations. The reality does not affect only me. It extends to every collector, hobbyist, and citizen attempting to navigate the law in good faith. I would respectfully ask Director Cicada to examine how technical determinations are made and presented. If an item is only deemed unlawful after modification, assembly, or theories of constructive possession and readily convertible status advanced by the government, then the issue is not solely the item. It is the standard being applied. And a standard that shifts from case to case is indistinguishable from no standard at all. I would ask that my prosecution be reviewed as a case study. Guys, hearing this come from Tate, it's difficult to read. It really, truly is, knowing what we know about the case. Continuing, the investigative approach, as I experienced it, began with efforts by a paid criminal informant with pending charges to induce the creation of an illegal item that did not exist. When that effort failed, the focus shifted to an alternative theory aligned with a broader enforcement initiative. An object that did not meet the ATF's own regulatory definition at the time was ultimately classified as a machine gun to support a warrant. The testimony used to support that outcome is where the record becomes especially difficult to reconcile with ordinary expectations of law enforcement clarity. The lead case against testified that everything I possessed, the lead case agent testified that everything I possessed constituted illegal firearms, yet he also admitted he had, quote, only ever seen many of these items in video games, and that he could not distinguish between a real firearm and a replica by sight alone. That raises a fundamental question. If the enforcing agent cannot make that distinction, how is an ordinary citizen expected to know where that line is? He also testified that altering evidence is against agency policy, while acknowledging that government experts, nevertheless, modified multiple items during examination. On required filings, he suggested I should have completed a Form 1 application before acquiring certain components, while overlooking that such forms require serial numbers from those very components and are not applicable in the way he described. He further implied that approval would allow one to then assemble the item, despite the fact that I never assembled anything into a functional configuration. The firearm enforcement officer's testimony added another layer of concern. He stated, my understanding is the original definition of a firearm receiver did not fit 90-some% of frames or receivers the way it was written. In other words, he acknowledged that the regulatory definition in 27 CFR 478.11 did not align with how certain components were being treated, an issue later addressed through updated rulemaking. Yet in my case, conclusions still relied on interpretations that predated or extended beyond that framework. He also described sheet metal components, M240 80% side plates, as having, quote, reached a stage of manufacturing in which they are clearly recognized as plates for a M240 machine gun. Therefore, are machine guns as defined, quote, relying on internal policy language that did not publicly exist at the time of seizure. In another instance, inert RPG training aids were described in a manner that treated a single component as though it constituted a destructive device, despite the statute and case law requiring a combination of parts and functionality that did not exist in my possession. And perhaps most strikingly, an ATF firearms enforcement officer testified that, quote, a Sharpie marker in the correct location for a sear pinhole would be enough to classify an element as a machine gun receiver. Under that theory, lawful possession of otherwise ordinary items combined with something as simple as a marker could be reframed as constructive possession of a machine gun. There were classifications and opinions presented by the individual responsible for evaluating nearly every item in the case. These are not abstract disagreements over technical language. They are the difference between lawful possession and decades of imprisonment. I raise these points carefully and with respect for the agency's mission of combating violent crime, but they lead to a necessary question. Is this type of application aligned with that mission? Is there a meaningful distinction being maintained between a collector attempting compliance and an individual engaged in criminal conduct that threatens public safety? There should be. Now, I've only got about a minute left, so I'm going to skip over a little bit of this because I'd like to get to some additional parts here without having to get too much into it in the second segment when we talk with Lee, the GunWriter Williams. At trial, the ATF spent 4 days arguing that MAC flats, MAC flats, were illegal machine guns, a theory later proven false, though only after the verdicts had already been returned. If I may ask for one thing beyond review, it is clarity and specifically correlation of what I believe remains an unresolved factual dispute between what was presented in court and what the government still maintains about these items. The goal should not simply be winning cases, but getting it right. Despite the evidence and the actual physical condition of the items, the position advanced by the prosecution and reflected in the record continues to treat them as illegal machine guns, receivers, or destructive devices when they were not. In other words, I remain in a position where plainly non-functional, incomplete, or legally exempt items are still being characterized as contraband weapons. This is not a technical disagreement. It is the foundation of the case that upended my life. I'm going to continue down here towards the bottom. These distinctions are not technicalities. They are the difference between lawful possession and decades of federal exposure. When those lines are blurred, the consequences are not theoretical, they are permanent. I offer this letter with respect for your position and the responsibility it carries. I also offer it with the hope that my experience serves a purpose beyond itself, reinforcing the necessity of clarity, consistency, and restraint in the exercise of such extraordinary authority. Because when those elements are absent, the cost is not abstract. I am living it. Tate Adamiak. When we come back, Lee the GunWriter Williams opens up on all of this. Don't go away. Indeed. Welcome back to the show. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today here in the CZ studios, here at the Patriot Mobile Command Center in front of the Patriot Mobile mic. You just heard that NRA rejoin. If you've not joined the National Rifle Association, do us a solid, please, and join us at NRA.org. Use that promo code and that link, NRA.org/AAR, and get in this fight. We need you in this fight. We are winning today, ladies and gentlemen, like crazy, and we need your help to continue the string of victories. More about that coming up. Let's get right over to Lee, the GunWriter Williams. Lee, welcome in, my friend. A pleasure always. I don't know how a guy like Tate, I was talking with Greg during the break, maintains his composure while locked in a cell. I know how stressful life is outside cell walls. I can't imagine what it's like inside cell walls. When you're fighting for your very existence and your very survival, the stress level must be through the roof. I'm sure he can take it more than somebody a little bit older, as young as he is, but nonetheless, he does not deserve to be there. And when I read this letter, it takes me back. It breaks my heart because I know what this young man is up against. We've also got a clip of Representative Eli Crane from Arizona talking with Cicada about this case. We'll play that shortly, but I want your response to this.
Yeah, I think no matter how good you are mentally, no matter how strong you are, there's no way in hell anybody can do this. I mean, he's starting his fourth year here pretty soon behind bars. He's got to be, and he and I talk frequently. You can tell it's taken a toll on him just from when we started talking about a year ago. I don't know how you maintain your mental health when you know you're absolutely innocent. I mean, look at the items that they nailed him for. 7 semi-automatic pistols, which were standard. I mean, he completed an ATF Form 4473 form. They called them machine guns. A toy Sten submachine gun. They called it an actual machine gun. He had chunks of guns that had been cut with torches that they called machine guns. He had 37-millimeter flare launchers. They called them grenade launchers. And then the 2 inert RPG-7s had holes drilled in them. They would never chamber a live round. This is what this man is doing prison for, which you'll find in most guys' junk drawer or hanging on the wall of some gun shop. I can't honestly believe that he's still in prison after nearly 4 years, brother.
Yeah, it's disheartening to say the least. I think now's a good time to play the clip. Greg, let's play the clip of our friend Eli Crane, Representative Crane from Arizona, questioning Cicada at a hearing. It was just last week. Go ahead.
I want to bring up a specific case to you. This one involved a gentleman named Patrick Tate Adamiak. He was a Navy vet. He was honorably discharged. Mr. Tate is a nonviolent offender, and the items involved in his case were incapable of firing and historically treated as an exempt from the federal firearm regulation under 27 CFR and 478.11. He has been incarcerated since October 21, 2022, serving a 20-year federal sentence, and I and many of my colleagues believe are disproportionately severe for a case centered on regulatory interpretation rather than harmful conduct. Will you commit to having your agency look into this case and see if anything can be done to address this miscarriage of justice?
Sir, I just would like to let you know we have been in contact with Mr. Adamiak's attorney. We have looked at some of the evidence, and we are working with DOJ. I will tell you, I understand DOJ is looking at the case as well for resentencing scheduled in June. With that, I don't know the specific facts on the DOJ side, but we are working on that as well.
Thank you, sir. I yield.
All right. Now, it's important that we point out, Lee, Greg and I have been talking about this, both off air and on air. This is the reason he's aware of this is because of you. The work you've done here. If it were not for you, this case would have had no legs whatsoever. It would have just been brushed aside. No one would know who Tate Adamiak is. That's a direct result of the work that you put in when you discovered what was happening here. How did you first hear about this case out of the blue? Where did it come from? How did it get to you?
Well, one of the gentlemen he served with prepared a packet, and he sent them around, and I got it, and I started looking at it, and I was floored by the allegations. I started investigating and found out, yeah, every single one of them is correct. I get stuff like that all the time as an investigative reporter. I've signed for huge boxes full of paperwork that you go through it and somebody's like, well, yeah, they did screw up. But Tate didn't. He did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. And that's what hooked me. And the fact that he's starting his 4th year pretty soon is disgusting. I mean, Eli Crane is a former SEAL. He knows weapons. He knows firearms. He knows what he's talking about, and he's crazed about it, too. I hope to have an interview with him coming up at some point.
Well, you'll enjoy it for sure because he's very good. I've had the opportunity to meet him when he was running. I actually was behind the camera filming interviews with him for Breitbart News in a very hot desert in the middle of Arizona in the dead of summertime. We had to get out there early to try to beat some of that heat, which was impossible. But Eli is the real deal. And guys, I want to make this very clear. As the host of this program, I get comments and opportunities to talk with people. People approach me, Lee, very similar to you. Can you help me with this? This is my particular case.
Yeah.
And I've turned a couple of them over to you. And here's a testament to Lee and his investigative journalism skills, ladies and gentlemen. Most of the time, those cases, Lee will come back to me and say, Mark, I really don't have anything. I don't think I can work with this. There's not enough information here. Or I looked into this and I really don't think I'm going to be able to help out. When you saw this, though, your feathers went up, brother. The hair on the back of your neck rose. You knew.
It's still up. It's still up.
So it's
Let me tell you, I still got the hair on my back and the neck is crazed at the thought that, you know, they're taking some steps to try and get him some help. But my God, in the meantime, you've got an innocent man sitting there in prison. I mean, think about that. Think about that. He spent nearly 4 years in prison without committing any crime. And yeah, I got to correct Eli. He is retired from the Navy. He retired when he was in jail.
Right.
The Navy never got rid of him. The Navy never said, "Oh, we're going to give you a dishonorable discharge."
Yeah, the ATF
the Navy
did.
knew this was a bunch of crap.
Yeah, the Biden
they allowed him to
ATF.
retire.
The Biden ATF is what forced his retirement from the United States Navy. Now, his father is about how old, Tate's dad?
I don't know, late 60s.
Okay.
Great guy.
All right.
Dave Adamiak.
This kid is looking at another 17 years behind the walls. And, ladies and gentlemen, you know, when he signs this letter, it's Patrick Tate Adamiak, number 95252-509. That's his federal inmate number. That's how he's referred to behind walls. That's how he signs letters now. He's got a federal inmate number as a result of the Biden ATF and this scam. And, Lee, when we come back from this break, I want to point out that you and I had talked a couple weeks back, I believe. It was a couple weeks ago. Lose track of time somewhat, about SAF seeking help from the United States Supreme Court. I was teasing that yesterday. We're going to talk about the outcome of that. There has been movement in this, ladies and gentlemen. Some good, some not so good. When we come back, we'll catch you up on all of it and continue the conversation with Lee, the GunWriter Williams. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. PatriotMobile.com, PatriotMobile.com. You don't hear that on the live stream because of copyright deals. We're working on changing that. Those of you listening on your radio dials across the country, PatriotMobile.com. You just heard that rejoin. Guys, this is a Patriot Mobile phone. Here it is. I can find it. That's a Patriot Mobile activated phone. PatriotMobile.com, PatriotMobile.com. You can see the Patriot Mobile hat that I have up there in the background on the live stream. I have to fight my kids for that hat, and my wife, my daughter, and my son for that hat all the time. I'm always missing it because they love wearing it. I guess I should probably get some more. That would solve that problem, right? But it's patriotmobile.com/AAR, patriotmobile.com/AAR, patriotmobile.com/AAR. Get a free month activation. When you head over there, you can move one phone, two phones, 5 phones, all your phones, your business phones, everything. They've got something for everybody over there, and it's 100% American customer service based, right out as AWR Hawkins from Brightwort would tell us, Texas, right out of Texas. And you don't mess with Texas. And Greg, if you're going to be dumb, don't be dumb where?
In Texas.
In Texas. Texas, ladies and gentlemen, support staff, patriotmobile.com. You can find them and all of our great partners, including Daniel Defense, at our website, armedamericanradio.com. Lee the GunWriter Williams, welcome back. So Supreme Court, guys, had the case in front of them, was up at conference, and yesterday out of conference, it was denied by Supreme Court for review. Is that correct, Lee?
Yeah, they announced it, didn't give it even a sentence, just said that they denied certiorari to the Adamiak's case. So the Supreme Court's not going to deal with it.
Which, honestly, is not shocking to me, and when they deny cert, most of the times that they do, they don't give a reason. They just mention that it's denied. It shows up on a list, ladies and gentlemen, if you're over at SCOTUS watching these. Were you surprised that they didn't review the case, knowing everything you know about it?
I wouldn't say I was surprised, but after all the major gun organizations sent in nicely written writs for the Supreme Court justices to read, I was somewhat angered, let's just say, that they denied cert.
Angered more than shocked was my feeling too, and I'll be honest. I'll tell you why. The case was adjudicated by a jury. It's not easy to get the Supreme. They take less than 1% of the cases that come before them.
In the Fourth Circuit. In the Fourth Circuit.
In the Fourth Circuit.
It was completely mishandled.
Yeah, well, that's the Fourth Circuit. That's what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah,
that's
where the judge was crazy.
Yeah,
prosecution lies.
Well, anti-gun judges in the Fourth Circuit, they've already upheld Maryland's ban as constitutional. We know that's going to eventually be overturned. Virginia's in the Fourth Circuit, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so we know what we're up against in the Fourth Circuit. However, I have this gut feeling, and I could be wrong, but I do not believe this kid is going to do all of his time. I believe a pardon is in the works here. For some reason, I have that gut feeling. I think the Supreme Court, maybe some justices were aware of that as well. And guys, they've got a full docket over there. Believe me, we know we follow this stuff every single day. It's why they take less than 1 or 1.5% of the cases before them. We know they have to pick and choose their battles. We all would have liked to have seen them take this. He probably would have been freed. I just want the kid, first off, more than anything, to get his sentence commuted and get him out and get him home. The reason I asked how old his father was in the previous segment before time got the best of us was when you talk about the stress level here, think about his poor father who is in his 60s, knows he might not live to see his son get released. The time he's losing with his son, his mother, my gosh, come on. You know what happened there. Go ahead.
His mother died after Tate was arrested. He never went to the funeral, has not seen her grave. It was incredible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we don't need this to happen to anybody else.
All right. Well, you've done incredible work there. What's the next step? Clearly, this case is being looked at the highest levels of our government in a very friendly administration.
I think
for something like this.
the DOJ has several options. One, the president could issue a pardon. That would be great. At his rehearing, at his resentencing, whatever the hell you want to call it, they could throw out a charge. They could say, hey, the government moves to throw out. If you threw out the RPG charges, which cost him the most amount of time, he could be released.
On time
if
served.
They dumped the RPG, time served. Now, he'll get out, he'll show how everything else was a bunch of crap, and he'll get all of his rights back, but at least he'll be able to do that from outside of a federal prison.
Now, Will, question for you, Lee. It's possible at that resentencing hearing he could be released entirely. Number one, that's an option. A judge can do that. Number two, a judge could order a new trial and release him pending the next trial and the outcome of that trial, correct?
Yeah, it's possible. I don't think it's going to happen in the Fourth Circuit. I don't think that circuit is wired to be off on guns.
Well,
they're
no doubt.
hardwired to be anti-gun. But if the ATF comes in and says, hey, we're going to throw out this charge, he's a free man. Time served, away he goes. And then he can start the process of showing everyone how bad and how crazy these charges were and how it was all done under Biden and how the CI lied, the agents lied, and their firearms expert lied. Under oath, brother. Remember, they called that toy submachine gun a real submachine
Shocking.
gun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hardest thing for me to believe is that and the RPGs, with the holes drilled in them, missing parts, marked training, those things are hard for me to believe because you can see him anywhere. He bought him at a fair, some kind of fair in California. It just makes me absolutely nuts. Sorry.
Look at it this way. If they were being sold at a fair in California, they were compliant with something. Okay, particularly when you consider, I'm going here because of you consider California's crazy, whacked out laws. Okay, if they were being sold in California, there's absolutely no reason the ATF should have even looked at this to begin with, based on where they were purchased to begin with. I mean, the whole thing is absolutely crazy.
I said this before. I got to say it again. They realized once they kicked down his doors and went and he voluntarily opened his safes. They saw he had nothing, so they had to come up with something. So they lied, Mark. They lied about the stuff that he had. Parts and toys and DWAT guns.
Yeah, well, when you hear, ladies and gentlemen, Justin Moon, for example, on the round table every week tell you what the other side has in store for you, this is it. Mm-hmm. They have no problem imprisoning you for the rest of your life if it furthers their agenda. They don't care about you. They don't care about justice.
Correct.
They don't care about your life, your future, your family. They don't care. They will throw you in the slammer, which is exactly what they did to him. And the lengths that they went to do it, I'm not happy enough seeing him get out. I want to see some accountability here. And, okay, government accountability. What I don't want to see is a bunch of hearings after this to find out how it happened that go nowhere. Now, I don't know that we'll ever get that. Right now, first order of business is to get him out.
I swear to God, he deserves to see those people that totally ruined his life for no good reason other than they were doing what Joe Biden wanted, go to prison. I mean, the firearms expert that examined him, I've written stories about this guy and what a malcontent and completely inept piece of crap he was. I'm sorry, I'm watching my language.
No, FCC. Lee's been around the block with us a lot of years on the program. He understands the Federal Communications Commission guidelines because we are. And for those of you who might be new watching online, this is a nationally syndicated talk radio program. In fact, a top 100 program in the nation. And as a result of that, we are constrained by FCC regulations. If you're watching on your devices, we are not a podcast. We are being aired on stations around the country right now, and other stations around the country on delayed broadcasts, some at drive time, some in the evening, some in the morning, et cetera. So that's why it's hard for us to hold back sometimes, particularly when we talk about a case like this. And I don't say that tongue in cheek.
I can only use about
a
quarter of my words.
I can only tell you,
1/4 of my vocabulary.
Yeah, our off-air conversations are a little bit saltier when it comes not just to Tate Adamiak, others as well when it comes to gun control. When we come back, something else that's going to require some FCC constraint, and that's going to be an HOA association in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Lee is shaking his head. I can see him on the radio through the magic of technology and cameras because he lives in Florida. Wait till you hear what the HOA did. We talk about HOAs. I've been ragging HOAs for years. Oh, I'm going to have fun with this one. Greg, stay on the dump switch. We'll be right back with Lee. Don't go away. Yeah, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Attorneys on retainer card. I'm holding it up. This is me holding up 4 lawyers, okay? If I have to go to court, my 4 lawyers are right here, and they're only $37 a month. I was talking with a longtime fan of the show by text earlier today, TJ, who said, Mark, mine's 35. You keep saying it's 37. It went up in January by a whole $2. Not 200, not 2,000, not 20,000, not 200,000, which is what it would cost you times 2 or 3 or 4 if you had to defend yourself at trial. But $2 a month, $37 a month, ladies and gentlemen. Use the promo code AAR or visit attorneysonretainer.us/AAR, and we're going to get you $25 off your sign-up fee for a team of lawyers who specialize in one thing and one thing only, and that is self-defense law, period, nothing else, keeping you out of the slammer. Guys, visit all of our great partners, including Attorneys on Retainer, at attorneysonretainer.us/AAR, but you can find them all at Armed American Radio. That includes Bud's Gun Shop, budsgunshop.com. Make sure to check them out, our exclusive online retailer. Don't forget, please help us in Arizona at azcdl.org, potofgoldauctions.org, which is POG Auctions, POGauctions.com. Check them out. Also, Virginia Citizens Defense League. That battle is raging in the state of Virginia right now. We're going to win it, but we need the numbers behind us. Okay, it's $25 for a year to join. I'm a life member of all these organizations. You should be too. It's how we get it done. Now, for the remainder of this segment, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to insert a brief silence, and you can insert whatever expletive you want to put in on that one. That's how I'm going to keep Greg from having to work hard on the dump switch. Lee, the GunWriter Williams, welcome back, brother. You ready to cover this one? This is a joke, man.
Yeah, this is fun. This is a fun one.
Police will not enforce Florida's HOA's neighborhood gun ban. We're going to take you to Port St. Lucie, Florida. Where is that in Florida, Lee? I know, but for the benefit of our audience.
Yeah, it's a little south of here, a little south of Sarasota.
Yeah, it's on the Gold Coast, man, right? I always call the Naples area the Gold Coast because it is. It's absolutely beautiful. It's between Sarasota and Naples, if you know Southwest Florida. It's in that area. Figure Fort Myers, Punta Gorda, Cape Coral. It's in those areas. So what you've got here is an HOA. Now, I can't stand homeowners associations. As far as I'm concerned, the people that run them are a bunch of, and you can, again, put whatever you want when you hear that silence pop in. But most of these people have they're missing something in their lives that somehow when they join the HOA, they feel like they can boss you around.
Brain cells.
Oh.
They're missing brain cells.
They just act like a bunch of... So there you go. So what happens is they've decided at this Port St. Lucie neighborhood down there at the Florida's Tradition Community, and the HOA is the Tradition Community Association, has decided to ban guns, your guns, in areas covered by the HOA, including the town hall, Tradition Square, the gazebo, splash pad. I guess that's where you get under the mushroom with your kids and the water's all out there. Tot lot, dog parks, trails, and stormwater areas throughout the Port St. Lucie development. Moreover, residents are barred, quoting from AWR Hawkins, from carrying a gun in said areas for self-defense, even if they possess a concealed carry permit, which, by the way, is no longer required in the state of Florida to exercise your constitutional rights. Now, here's what Port St. Lucie Police had to say about this. The Port St. Lucie Police Department enforces Florida state law, not private HOA policies or community association rules. PSLPD fully supports the constitutional rights afforded to all law-abiding citizens, including the rights protected under the Second Amendment. Responsible firearm ownership remains a protected right under both the United States Constitution and Florida law, and our officers will continue to uphold and protect those rights while enforcing the law fairly and impartially. Now, there's a person by the name of Taylor Welsh who lives in the HOA Traditions area and believes the ban was instituted, quoting from AWR, in a way that took everyone by surprise. As gun owners ourselves, we just felt like it was very subversive to do something like this behind everyone's backs because it seems like no one had prior notice. While this is a safe community, we have seen an uptick in incidents around here where I would personally just feel better if I was allowed to still carry around the parks and walking trails. Let me tell you, Taylor, you are allowed, and the HOA, and Anybody who else has anything to do with this, if you have an issue, make sure to call the Port St. Lucie Police Department, okay? Now, as far as I'm concerned, every single one of those HOA members that voted for this, every single one of those members that, for this, every single one of them should be brought up on civil rights violation charges, Lee, and there's laws in Florida to stop this nonsense. What gives here, Mr. Florida resident? Clue me in.
Well, I love how they phrased it. They sent a memo around saying, in essence, carrying of a firearm or other weapon, either openly or concealed, is not permitted in tradition community association common areas. The enclosed rule does call out specific exceptions. This rule applies even if you do not have a concealed carry license for your weapon. I predict, because it is Florida, all of those HOA members are going to go. They're all going to be removed. First of all, nobody's going to stop carrying a firearm. It's Florida, for God's sake. That's what we do here, brother. You don't need any piece of paper in your wallet. And you don't even have to conceal your firearm. You can carry it openly. So what they're doing, we see this every now and then, but it will end. But now here's the interesting part and the sad part. There's no legal thing that can be done to these crazed HOA board members. Their ordinance has effect in that they could probably ask you to leave or something like that, or give you some kind of penalty if you're caught with a firearm. Nothing criminal, nothing civil, but HOA could take some legislative action against you in their whatever HOA calls it. It's not a courtroom. It's a board of appeal or some crap like that. But yeah, there's nothing that can be done to stop this lunacy other than boarding every one of those board members off the HOA.
Well, there actually is, and ladies and gentlemen, just simply, you don't comply with this nonsense. Okay, these HOA have absolutely no authority whatsoever over you, nor does any Democrat.
None.
No human being has the moral authority. No human being possesses the moral authority to tell you that you cannot defend your life with whatever tool you want and them. Now, Councilman Anthony Bonner, as a Republican, says the ban violates Second Amendment rights and he plans to fight it. He will. This is not going to fly.
Right
Just
now.
do not comply with this. As far as open carry in Florida is legal. And here, you know what I tell you to do? Openly carry in the park in the HOA areas. Have at it.
Your ARs. Carry your ARs openly. It's completely legal.
Make
Do
a
it.
statement to these people that you will not comply with their unconstitutional, tyrannical HOA blanks. It's that simple. My God, I wish I'd walk around down there all day if I could. Guys, look, you want to tell me not to have a car on blocks in my neighborhood? I live in an HOA neighborhood, okay? I fight a lot of that stuff, but what they can do and what a lot of these tyrants will do is they'll put a lien on your home because you signed an HOA. They will mess with you. This fight is going to get nasty, but I'm going to tell you right now, they lose, the Constitution and Florida win. It's that simple, but they're out there, Lee. They're out there. They're everywhere. Lee, where can people find you, brother? This is great stuff.
They can go to armedamericannews.org. They can go to thegunwriter.substack.com, but we hope everybody goes to SAF, as in Second Amendment, 30.org.
That'll do it. Lee, the GunWriter Williams, we love you, man. Thanks for everything you do. Go walk around that HOA down there. Film it. Do a First Amendment and Second Amendment audit on those folks. Get it out on YouTube. You'll get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views. Lee, we love you. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it greatly. Guys, we're going to get up and do this again tomorrow because they don't want us to. And we're going to. That's why. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. I'll see each of you on the radio tomorrow. Guys, I was watching on the stream on camera, and I got some red lights behind me, and the studio lights probably should have brightened them. When they start to turn red, it was like my face was turning red. I thought, well, maybe that's because of the lights. No, it's not because of the lights. That's sheer anger. It's a combination of both. Golly, ladies and gentlemen, these clowns are out there, man. They're out there. I'm telling you, they're everywhere. Every single one. Don't comply with this nonsense. Have at it. Carry your firearm. You have a right to do that, and the HOA cannot stop you. This isn't even a fair fight here, ladies and gentlemen, and it's certainly one that somebody needs to take on and put a stop to these tyrant. I can, because I'm not on FCC-controlled airwaves right now, but I'll be nice. just because you can figure it out. I know what you're thinking too, so we're on the same page here. Guys, we're going to do a little Mark with guitars tomorrow. I've got a really cool guitar behind me here. We'll have this one up because this one here is one of my favorites, and it's a personal thing for me because I showed you the original guitar I bought, my first one. Then I showed you the step up from that. This is the step up from that. This guitar goes nowhere ever. It's absolutely beautiful. And then I've got another very special one that I haven't talked about before that I will show you later this week. But both of them are beautiful, and all four of them are Gibsons. We've talked about the Gibson SG before. We've talked about which one was it? The Les Paul Jr. So we talked about that one with the P90 pickups. Now we're going to talk about this one and the other one, and I'll save that for tomorrow. Enjoy your day, guys. Stay safe out there, okay? We'll see you on the radio tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Please go to YouTube if you're not on YouTube right now and subscribe to us. Hit the subscribe button and the like button. We would appreciate that. We're growing over there, and we need your help. We have crossed a bunch of thresholds, and we need you to help us continue to do so, okay? So we can get the streams out to more and more people every single day, and those numbers are going up, and we need you to do it. And we appreciate you, those of you who are doing that. So we'll see you on the radio tomorrow, guys, and YouTube, X. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. Carry on. Carry often. If you live in Port St. Lucie, carry openly right in their faces. See you on the radio tomorrow, guys.